Start with a haunting question or single, shocking statement. Examples. She thought she was getting a ride home. Instead, it became her last ride. What if your final moments were caught on camera, and the people responsible said it was? Before Madison Brooks became a headline, she was simply Maddie, the kind of person everyone wanted to be around. Born and raised in Covington, Louisiana, she grew up in a close-knit family that called her their sunshine. Her laugh came easily, and she had this habit of making everyone feel like they mattered. At St. Scholastica Academy, she wasn't just another name on the honour roll. She cheered at football games, volunteered through her church, and lifted the mood of every room she walked into. Teachers remembered her as someone who never did anything halfway. If she committed to it, she poured her whole heart in. When she got into Louisiana State University, it felt like everything she'd worked for was finally happening. Madison declared a major in communication and earned acceptance into the Manship School of Mass Communication, one of the toughest programs on campus. She wanted to tell stories that mattered, to use her voice to give others theirs. Life at LSU fit her perfectly. Classes, football games, late-night coffee runs, the sisterhood she found in Alpha Phi sorority. It was everything she'd hoped college would be. Friends say she radiated energy, always planning the next adventure. Ski trips, skydiving, road trips just because she could. But beneath all that excitement was something simpler. She just loved people. Her family, her friends, even strangers she'd just met. At 19, Madison Brooks was on her way to building a future that looked limitless. No one who knew her could have imagined how fast it would all be taken away. It was Saturday, January 14th, 2023. The kind of night every college student knows. No deadlines, no stress, just a few hours to forget about everything and have fun. For Madison, it was supposed to be that simple. If you've ever been to Baton Rouge, you've probably heard of Tigerland, a stretch of bars just off the LSU campus where the music never really stops. And at the centre of it all is Reggie's Bar, the kind of place that's loud, crowded, and familiar to every student who's ever needed to unwind. Madison walked in around 10 p.m, laughing, surrounded by friends, completely unaware that she'd just stepped into the final hours of her life. Also inside Reggie's that night were 4 men she'd never met. 18-year-old Kyvon Washington, 17-year-old Desmond Carter, 18-year-old Casson Carver, and Everett Lee, 28, the oldest of the group, and Washington's uncle. 4 strangers, 4 choices that would change everything. At first, nothing seems out of the ordinary. Surveillance footage shows Madison dancing with Carter, smiling, hugging, looking like any college kid having fun on a Saturday night. But as the hours pass, something changes. Around 1 a.m, cameras capture her stumbling, falling to the floor, struggling to stay upright. People help her up, but she can't keep her balance. She's slurring her words. She's clearly intoxicated, far past the point of being safe. By 2 a.m, Reggie's is closing. Lights come on, music stops. Madison drifts outside with the crowd. And right there, in the parking lot, the 4 men are waiting. According to them, Madison asked for a ride home. Maybe she did. Maybe she thought they were being kind, but what's certain is this. She didn't know them, and she was in no condition to make any decisions about her safety. She climbs into Casson Carver's car. Carver driving, Lee in the passenger seat, Washington and Carter in the back with Madison. The car pulls away from Tigerland and disappears into the darkness of Baton Rouge. That was the last time anyone saw Madison Brooks alive. 2 men assaulted Madison. 2 others watched and did nothing. At some point, someone in that car pulled out a phone and started recording. The video shows Madison drunk, slurring, trying to speak. She asks to get out. She says she'll call an Uber and get home on her own. It's about 2:50 a.m. when they finally let her out, on the side of a dark road near the Pelican Lake subdivision. No friends, no lights, no idea where she is. Her blood alcohol level would later be measured at 0.319%, nearly 4 times the legal limit to drive. At that level, medical experts say a person may lose consciousness or control of their body, unable to understand danger or make rational decisions. Madison tries to walk. She's confused, weaving in and out of the street. It's the middle of the night, pitch black. Then, at 3 a.m., a rideshare driver turns a corner. In the glow of his headlights, there's a figure in the road. He slams the brakes, but it's too late. Impact. The driver calls 911 immediately. He's sober. He stays at the scene, frantic and shaking. Paramedics rush Madison to the hospital, but the injuries are too severe. Within hours, she's gone. At first, police think it's an accident, a young woman hit by a car in the dark. But when they start asking questions, who she was with, how she got there, the truth begins to surface. And it's far worse than anyone could have imagined. It's after 3 in the morning, and the streets outside Baton Rouge are completely still. No music, no movement, just the sound of tires rolling over wet pavement. A rideshare driver heads down a long stretch of highway, headlights slicing through the dark. Out of nowhere, something flashes in the road. The driver barely has time to react before there's a heavy, sudden impact. The car jerks, and everything goes quiet. He gets out, confused, thinking he's hit debris or an animal. But then, under the glare of his headlights, he sees what's really there. At first, everyone assumes it's a tragic accident. A young woman struck while trying to get home. Police arrive, lights flood the road, and for a few minutes it feels like a scene the world has sadly seen too many times before. But then, investigators start noticing the details. The location, her injuries, the belongings left scattered in strange places. None of it makes sense for a simple hit and run. That quiet stretch of road wasn't just the site of an accident. It was the end of something much darker. And as the night turns to morning, the story of what really happened to Madison Brooks is only beginning to unfold. When investigators start piecing together Madison's final hours, the story shifts from tragedy to something far more deliberate. They go back through surveillance footage from that night, bars, parking lots, gas stations, every camera that could have caught her on film. Bit by bit, the timeline starts to form. Madison leaving Reggie's, the group she's seen with, the car she gets into. Then come the toxicology results. Her blood alcohol level is so high, experts say she wouldn't have been capable of making clear decisions, let alone giving consent. That changes everything. The coroner's report adds another layer, injuries that don't line up with an accident, evidence that tells a different story about her final moments. Police realise the night didn't end on that road. What looked like a random tragedy is now being treated as a criminal investigation. As detectives retrace every step, they find connections that pull the case wide open, and all signs start pointing toward one shocking truth. This wasn't just misfortune. It was a crime. Once the investigation goes public, everything explodes. Arrests are made. Several men connected to that night are taken into custody, and their faces are suddenly everywhere. The news, social media, campus group chats. The defence moves fast. Their claim? It was consensual. But when prosecutors review the footage taken inside the car, that argument starts to crumble. The judge's reaction in court says it all. Disbelief, then anger. Within days, the charges are upgraded to first-degree rape, turning what began as a local story into a national headline. Reporters dig deeper, and what they uncover is even more disturbing. Other young women start coming forward, describing similar experiences. Familiar faces, the same circle of people. The narrative changes again. This isn't just about one terrible night. It's about a pattern of behaviour that had gone unchecked for far too long. For many watching, the outrage shifts from confusion to clarity. The case isn't only about Madison anymore. It's about how easily power, alcohol and silence can mix into something that destroys lives. After the arrests, everything seems to stop. Court dates are scheduled, then postponed. Months turn into years. For Madison's family, time moves in slow motion, every delay reopening the wound. The community changes around them. Reggie's bar, the place where the night began, is shut down. On campus, new safety rules appear. Stricter ID checks, better training, more eyes on what happens after dark. It's not justice yet, but it's something. Out of the grief, her family starts a scholarship fund in her name, a way to keep her spirit alive and to help other students chase the future she never got to finish. People who never met Madison keep showing up at events, vigils and fundraisers, repeating the same promise: they won't forget. The headlines fade, but the impact doesn't. Her story becomes a quiet force for change, a reminder that the fight for justice doesn't end when the cameras turn away. Madison Brooks should be 22 years old today. She should be celebrating, laughing with friends, planning the next chapter of her life. Instead, her name has become a symbol, one that forces people to ask hard questions about consent, responsibility, and the culture that allowed this to happen. Because at the centre of every headline, every court date, every policy change, there's still just one truth: a young woman who never made it home. Her story isn't only about tragedy. It's about what happens when a community decides that good enough isn't good enough anymore, when people demand something better. And maybe that's what justice really means. Not just punishment, but change. Madison Brooks deserved to make it home. And that simple truth is what justice is really about.